This is Glenn Healy.
Hi, this is Braden Holtby.
This is Daryl Sutter.
Hi, this is Brian Burke.
This is Jordan Tutu.
This is Keith Morrison.
This is Kelly Rudy.
Hi, this is Scott Hartnell.
Hey, everybody. My name is Theo Fleury.
This is Tim McAuliffe of Sportsnet, and you're listening to the Sean Newman Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, folks. I got the little man with me in the studio tonight, so if you hear some talking in the background, that's who it is. He's staring at me right now, playing with his trains. It is, it's parenting duty and trying to get a podcast out, so bear with me. Let's get on to today's episode sponsors. Jen Gilbert and team for over 45 years. Since 1976, the dedicated realtors of Coldwell Banker Cityside Realty have served Lloydminster and the surrounding area. They provide Star Power, which gives their clients 7-day-a-week access because they know big life decisions are not made during office hours. And did you know when it comes to rental properties, they're the biggest licensed residential property management company in the city of Lloyd. They deal with over 250 rental units. We're talking houses, apartments, and condos. That's Coldwell Banker Cityside Realty for everything real estate, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Give them a call, 780-875-3343. Kiva Concrete since 1979. Oh, the glorious year the Edmonton Oilers busted into the NHL with a guy called Wayne Gretzky and a cast of others. Kiva Concrete started. They're a family-owned business and operated, and it's almost 42 years of business in the area where they have offered all types of concrete services from residential, decorative, and commercial flat work. All you got to do is hop on their Instagram and do a little creep in, and see. Go to some big places in town like Spiro's Restaurants. Patio was done by them. A little further out, Elk Ridge Resort. I was just taking a look at their Instagram page, and they're doing some big shops right now. It looks, downright impressive. So they specialize in commercial, agricultural, residential, basement floors, driveways, sidewalks, patios, garage pads, shops, barns, and countertops. Essentially, if you can dream it, they can do it. Give Chris a call today, 780-875-7678. HSI Group, they're the local oil field burners and combustion experts that can help make sure you have a compliant system working for you. The team also offers security, surveillance, and automation products for residential, commercial, livestock, and agricultural applications. They use technology to give you peace of mind so you can focus on the things that truly matter. Stop in today, 3902 52nd Street, or give Brody or Kim a call at 306-825-6310. Mac Construction, they've been doing business locally for 12 years with over 100 homes completed. They are a design, build, custom home operation that has specialized in custom homes here in Lloyd. Homes, cottages, RTMs, throughout the community since 2008. In addition to custom home building, they also do extensive renovations to residences and light commercial work. If you're looking to build your dream house, head to macconstruction.ca and look no further. Jim Spenrath and team over at Three Trees Tap and Kitchen. They got a little Thunder Alley Pilsner on there from Ribstone. They got Fourth Meridian. They just added Siding 14 Brewery from Pinoca on tap. Of course, you can get your growlers filled there. If you follow along on their Instagram, you can win gift cards every week. So lots of cool things going there. I see they've had some live music. I'm hoping to catch their next one, which if you follow them on social media, you can find out exactly when that is. And please, if you're going to take the special someone there, don't be like me. Book a reservation. Give them a call, 780-874-7625. If you're looking for any outdoor signage, read them right with the amazing work of Mrs. Deanna Wandler. She always seems to have my best interests at heart, whether we're talking the wall quote, my SNP logo. He now has the train on the table. The frosted windows. Read and Write can get you hooked up, and especially just take a look at all their billboards and give them a call, 306-825-5111. Gartner Management is a Lloydminster-based company specializing in all types of rental properties to help meet your needs. Whether you're looking for a small office or a 6,000 square foot commercial space, give Wade Gartner a call today, 780-808-5025. And if you're heading into any of these businesses, make sure you let them know you heard about them from the podcast, right? Let's get on to that T-Bar 1, Tale of the Tape. Businessman, Rotarian, City Councillor, Executive Director of the Border City Connect Society, husband, father, and community pillar. I'm talking about Glenn Fagnan. So buckle up. Here we go. Well, how about we start there? It is January 24th, 2021. I'm sitting with Glenn Fagnan. So, first off, let's talk about passions. You say you're there right now.
Well, I am. Fortunately, a couple of my passions. I'm a City of Lloydminster councillor, just starting for my second term. Did my first 4 years, and my other passion, of course, is helping people out and working for with nonprofits and on the fundraising side of things and the volunteerism. And I am the executive director of the Border City Connect Society, which is the old handy van. So I've got two of those things that I go back and forth on and work 6-7 days a week on, and love every minute of it. So I'm passionate about that, and this is the best time I've had in my life. Plain and simple.
Hands down.
Hands down.
All the companies you've started help. This doesn't compare.
Nope, this is perfect.
So you like public service?
I do. Yeah, you bet.
Do you wish you would have gotten into politics sooner then?
This is good. This is good. I think that I'm able to, take a lot of my business skills that I did develop over the years and use that, gain some wisdom and hopefully put it to good use on city council. And certainly, I think with being in business all that time, we had some pretty some businesses that had lots of people come through the doors. We had a TELUS mobility dealership, and so we had literally, every year, thousands and thousands of people coming and getting their phones and communication side of things. So I did build a really good network of people through the business and through volunteerism, and I use that today to bounce when we have something going on there. I like to bounce it off people and get their opinions, and certainly one of those right now is one of your hockey things there with the Bobcats, of course, coming to the city looking for some kind of reduction in ice rates during this period of time with the pandemic. So that's one of those that's a lot of people would be for it, but there's a lot of people that say nah. So this is my question of the next 2 weeks, chatting with people.
Well, by the time this comes out, that'll be probably
It will be
a long overdone resolved issue one way or another.
No, for sure.
From a City of Lloyd standpoint, I think you mentioned it in here, one of the toughest times is exactly what we're going through right now. Like right now, this is something else. Got to be, this isn't the high times of $100 oil and you're sitting on not that people sitting on the council for the City of Lloyd then it was easy, but I mean, probably a few more smiles back then.
Oh yeah, no question. I mean, this is unprecedented, and I truly think, though, our administration has been doing a great job in keeping things under control and trying to do, the best that we can do for our public. We were able to defer the taxes till November instead of, which is a couple of months earlier than any of the other cities in the province. They were doing it back in September. They were taking it and August. So we were able, because of our charter, we were able to defer it a little bit longer. But at the end of the day, the municipality has limited funds that we have access to. Most of our dollars come from taxes and from whatever grants we get. But other than that, there's pretty slim pickings on new revenue opportunities out there. So so we're just trying to man the fort the best we can.
Now let's dig into as much as I want to sit here and talk about Lloyd politics. As you know from listening, that is not what I want to do. I'm curious about Glenn. I think a lot of people in town, if they know some of the things you've been involved in, are probably curious about you as well. So why don't we do this? You were born in '58. Where did you grow up first?
I was born and raised in Edmonton. So a little town just down the street from here. And I lived in Edmonton until late 70s.
So your first was that 12 years? No, late 70s. So the first you grew
I
up.
moved then when I was 18.
What was Edmonton back in the 60s? I talk awful lot about Lloyd, and everybody understands how small Lloyd was. What was Edmonton like back then?
Well, certainly, it's come a long way in those times, but it was a great little city. I certainly remember all the Klondike days and going to Edmonton Oil King games. It was there was a lot of activity, and it was a growing community. In our neighborhood, we had it was all young families. So I think we had five through our age group, 5 different midget and 5 different bantam groups, all of the same age kids, right? Because everybody moved in, brand new houses, same time, and so it was pretty neat. It was pretty neat back then, and certainly lots of things to do. And going through high school, they did get the Edmonton Coliseum built, and at that time, it was called the Coliseum. And I was fortunate enough to see Gretzky in his first game in Edmonton, and we used to go
don't slide me by that story. Let's hear about Gretzky in his first game in Edmonton.
Well, he was a 17-year-old kid going to Ross Shepherd High, and of course we were going to the games all the time. So you used to be able to get into the arena for $5 and sit anywhere in it, right? And so $5, yeah. So I mean, and it wasn't. Well, it was. It held whatever it. 12,000 people on the initial round. I think that's what it held. So yeah, there was lots of space back then. So that was pretty neat. Having the privilege to watch Gretzky play, and then living in Edmonton, and then
when you saw him first play as a 17-year-old going to school. Do you remember thinking like, that kid's going to be good? Or what is this all the hype about?
Well, it was hard to say. I mean, he's the same age as me. Yeah. Right? And I was...
But that had to have been a little bit mind-numbing. That kid is my age.
Yeah. No question. Well, it was pretty amazing, and it wasn't anything special. You could tell that he had that some ability out there. There was no question. He knew where the puck was, and he had he had some moves, so you could see that it was like that. And certainly there was a lot of hype about him coming through. So everybody was well aware of him, and I'm sure that oppositions were squeezing him a little bit harder and trying to slow him down a little bit. But yeah, it was pretty neat. There's no question about it.
You remember those early years of the Oilers? Like
sure.
The Coliseum coming in, the WHA playing back then. The Oilers would have been, there's a handful of guys that even from the area that were a part of that initial.
Like Dale Chipperfield, is that I'm just trying to pull that name out. Like
I always think of Skip.
Al Hamilton, yeah. Skip. Craig.
Yes, Craig.
Yeah.
Played there right at the very tail end of his career, and now I'm drawing blanks on this, but there was a whole group of guys that had played in the original NHL, the original 6, or right around that time era, and at the end of their career, were playing for WHA teams.
Yeah, well, and Al Hamilton was one of those, and we had Bobby Hull, Derek Sanderson.
So wait, this is Bobby Hull played for the Oilers?
No, sorry, did not, but he was with Winnipeg.
He was with Winnipeg. Yeah. Did you get to see Bobby Hull?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And Gordy and the boys as well. They were New England Whalers.
Yeah.
So no, that was pretty, that's pretty amazing seeing Gordy out there and his 2 boys. That was unbelievable. So
like that had to have been a pretty big deal for Edmonton and the area for that matter.
For sure it was. And they were getting the support. I mean, Edmonton's is a great hockey team, a great hockey town. As you know, and I mean that was just amazing being able to have that quality of player come in and play in our city, because certainly the Oil Kings were great and the Oil Kings, but to have professional hockey, that's a different
tier.
level.
Yeah, it's a different tier. Yeah, sorry, you get me sidetracked around hockey. You know where I'm going to go with it, Glenn. Right?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Let's go back to you. So you stay in Edmonton till the late 70s. What do you do when you graduate, or where are you off to? Like, what was young Glenn's like? I'm gonna conquer the world, or young Glenn's like, I just want to go to school. I want to earn a few bucks, put in my pocket. What were you thinking?
Well, I started working in the restaurant business when I was in high school. Started off, cleaning tables and bussing, doing dishes, and then started working in the kitchen. And so I found that I did have a passion on the kitchen side of things. And so actually once, it would have been 1.5 years after I graduated from school, I went to NAIT and took their culinary program. And so I had when I had finished that, I actually had an opportunity for a new place, a new restaurant that was just getting going and was supposed to be a hot place up in Fort McMurray. So a buddy of mine was up there, and I pulled up stakes and moved up when it went out, checked Fort McMurray out in the restaurant, and it was great. And so I ended up moving up to Fort McMurray and met my wife there and stayed there for 12 years.
Now, in the sheets you gave me, and I skimmed them, so maybe I missed this. I see a lot of businesses in there. I didn't see anything about restaurants.
That's correct. Yeah, I had when I did have I did have I leased it would be like the Communiplex in Fort McMurray, McDonald Island. I leased the part of the food services out of there in my my early 20s, I guess. And yeah, maybe it was actually after because I got out of the food business when I was 25, and just because of family, you're working crazy hours, working for one of the hotels up there, busy place, hard to get staff, and I had an opportunity to start selling food with one of the wholesalers there, and so that was a Monday to Friday, 8 to 5, and it just turned out perfect, so that I was hanging around the house a little bit more and spending some time with my wife and daughter. So, yeah.
So that's what you learned off of being in the food industry. You really enjoyed it, but at the end of the day, it was a lot of work.
It was, yeah, and for a young family as well, right? It's and knowing that it's a lot of work, but it was very interesting on the wholesale side of things, and that was actually my first volley into business, because I became a partner in that wholesaler business. So a small percentage, but that was my first business, so to speak, that I got involved in.
Now, when you say wholesaler, what do you mean?
Well, we sold different products to restaurants. So a lot of frozen products, such as all the French fries, the vegetables. We had seafood, where we had lobster tails, crab legs, and just a full array of.
So you're traveling around food. Alberta?
No, this is just in Lloyd. Just in
Fort McMurray.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. There's a number of hotels at that time. The city was 25,000 to 25 to 30,000 back at that. So it was, and we did a lot on the camp side of things as well. So Syncrude, Suncor, there was ample. We were diversified though as well. We had this Northfell group. We had the Culligan Water franchise. We had Hostess potato chips. We had the food wholesale, and then we also had SC Johnson, which is industrial chemicals and janitorial products. So and we actually had a office coffee service, and we had a contract with Syncrude. So we sold coffee to Syncrude. We supplied the machines out at their plant. There was 400 machines that we had out there, and they supplied their workers with free coffee. And that went on for probably a dozen years. It was going on before I started there, and one time they had an opportunity to get out of that, because they always said they would never get rid of the coffee. It's not worth the hassle if people have to start buying their own coffee. But a good little price drop somewhere in the early 80s there. They had the opportune time to drop it, and so they did. We still supplied them, but it was certainly a different setup. Instead of going to their dock, unloading it all at once, and then say catch you later. This way, we had to go out to the different areas of the plant and deliver it, so to speak. So, but yeah, that's my initial off the restaurant side of things and into the first business.
Yeah, but the first business it isn't like you're just selling potato chips. You're selling a lot of stuff. You got a very big net there of what you can be doing.
For sure, and I specialized obviously on the food side of things, and I did a lot. I learned about the whole chemical side of things as well, which when you take a look at it, another business down. That's one of the things that I got into when we first moved to Lloyd with Relay Distributing. Starting that was the chemicals. So we sold floor finishes and strippers and general cleaners, industrial chemicals to hotels, restaurants. A wide variety of stuff.
So initially out of high school, you start working in the restaurant industry. you enjoy it, you move up to the point of owning or running your own restaurant.
Well, I was actually a chef at one of the hotels in Fort McMurray.
So an employee.
Yep, you bet.
To switching over to being a part owner of a business, and that's your first taste of essentially being your own boss? Is that
right. Yep, you bet.
After that point, do you ever go back to being an employee?
You know, yeah, I did a one little point there for a short period of time in 1989. Well, I get my years going here. No, about 1998, and that was for I had sold Page Industries, and I had gone into I was always been interested in communications. So a friend of mine, Brant Jaffrey, had tried on communications. And so I went and worked for Brant for about a year. And that opened up a great opportunity because we, myself and a partner, opened up Midwest Communications. We were approached by a company called ClearNet. And ClearNet was a company, was a mobility company from down east. They were established down there, but had no presence in Western Canada. So we were able to get their product as far as the cellular go, but they had a really interesting product as well, and that was it was kind of a hybrid. It was a part cell phone, and it was also a part two-way radio, and they called them mics. And I don't know if you've ran into.
I remember them
the
quite well. Yes.
Yeah. So that was pretty neat. That opened up a whole brand new world for us, and especially in the patch here, it was incredible because I know that we had, the people that we had traipsing into our office with $5,000 phone bills and $6,000. I mean, it's just ridiculous, right? And at that point in time, there was really no good long distance plans. It was terrible, and so this was the TSN turning point, as you would say there, Sean, and it really made a difference. So the interesting thing, how that all turns out, is that we had the dealership for probably about 6 months, and TELUS purchased ClearNet across Canada. So at that time, it was the biggest communications deal, worth $6 billion, and the analysts were saying they're nuts for buying it, but they did buy it. And so our little ClearNet store turned into a TELUS Mobility store, and we became the third store in Lloydminster under the TELUS banner, and that was it. We were the only there was TELUS opened a store a few years ago in the mall. That's a corporate store, but other than that, it was just ourselves and Northwind. They had two stores.
Communications. I was just, like I was saying, I was talking Vernon Marlatt, who's 98, right? And I asked him about communications, and he talked about them using digging telephone poles by hand and using the fence wire as the cable in the beginning. I don't know how that's possible. I just nodded my head and I was like, I don't know. All right. But even since you started in the first communications business, you talk about the mic phone, and if I remember that I'm pretty sure that was Dad's favorite phone from in the patch, because I think all of us, well, not all of us, not everybody listening will remember that, but I remember using the mic on those phones. It was pretty slick, I thought. And actually, it was surprising that it didn't carry on after that. You probably know more about that than the common man. But in your time, and heck, in my time, how quickly communication has changed almost baffles your mind, doesn't it?
It's amazing. There's no question about it, and it's usually, we're going through something here right now with the 5G. That's another new level, and so 5G has been around for a long time. The technology's been there, but they haven't had the equipment or the infrastructure to utilize it. So that happens quite often in that whole communication side of things. It's always waiting for the equipment to catch up. Technology's there, but technology or by equipment takes a little while. So yeah, I've seen, when I first got in it was the analog phones, and so that was the bag phones, that was the old Motorola bricks, and it was and there was older units besides that before my time, but it was then we first got into our first digital phone, and and it just keeps increasing. And of course, the secret with the mic disappearing was TELUS and the carriers became more reasonable on the long distance calls. And so that was, so they lowered their rates, and then that was the big attraction, of course, with the mic was the instant talk, and I could talk to my buddy down in New Brunswick, and there was no long distance. Down in you could get down into Brazil and Mexico and be talking in no long distance. So it was pretty neat, very, very cool.
Yeah, and going back to what you said, a game changer, right?
It was.
It just completely flipped it on its head, so to speak.
Yeah, you bet.
Well, going back to Fort Mac and being a young guy and moving into selling bulk food, where do you go from there?
Well, that was I had met an associate up there that had a business, and he was from Lloydminster, and that was Morris and Dean Neveu, and so they had a restaurant up there, and they were selling it and moving back to Lloyd. So we had gotten to be fairly good friends, and they were chatting up about the upgrader was just going to be started and coming under construction. They felt there was a lot of opportunity. So I came down with Morris for a weekend, and I met the first people I met was the Colress brothers. We were over at their place, and they had Feldspar, and it was a successful business there. So I had some really good chats with them, and how this was going to be looking in the future. So at the end of the day, we decided that my wife and I we were at a fork in the road, and we could have gone to Edmonton. I was asked by Carnation Foods. A friend of mine was involved in that company, of course, and that's a national company to go work with them at Carnation Foods, or start the business down here in Lloydminster.
Why was that a fork in the road?
Well, I could have gone either way. I guess I'm just curious.
Why not stay in Fort Mac and continue to do the wholesale food?
Yeah, and that's a good question. I just thought that there was more opportunity on both either of those, and at that time as well, Sean, Fort McMurray was there was a strike there with MIOW. Housing prices had were going down. It was a difficult time up in Fort Mac at that time. So we just thought, hey, we'd move to somewhere else could be a little bit more prosperous.
And so Lloyd became the place of choice.
It did. Yeah, it was. My daughter would have been 11, and we couldn't. That was kind of right at that time pulling the chute on an 11-year-old girl. She wasn't overly impressed.
I can just imagine.
So, but she was very fortunate. She's a great kid and got along great with people. So she came down here and met some really good friends, and they're still friends today, for crying out loud, right? It was that good. We came into the community, started the business, and the first thing that was truly amazing, and this is the luckiest thing, was that I got invited to Rotary, probably a month after I'd been here, and had no idea what Rotary was, and it was just the strangest invitation, how it all happened. But needless to say, I accepted and went, and
I enjoy when people say a couple of keywords. Strange is one of them, because it means so much more than just strange. So do you care to elaborate on the strangest invitation?
Well, it's a story, but it's short and sweet. You'll get the gist of it. We in our product line, we had Palm Dairies, which is dairy products. And of course, there was the creamery here, the Saskatchewan producer. They produce milk right here in the city, and so we came in and we've got a full line of dairy, and we were having some success with some of the we were in the co-op and in the major stores and the smaller stores, so they weren't real happy with us. And I was watching our local news one day, and that story came up. It was a reporter that was standing outside the post office, and a gentleman came up to, they asked a guy, he came up to the mic and spoke, and he kind of gave us a little bit of bashing for moving in, and we shouldn't be doing that, leave it to the local guys, and hey, okay, that's fine. Well, the next day I'm down in Vermilion, and I'm in the mall in Vermilion, doing some sales down there, and who walks beside me is Frank. I didn't know his name at the time, and he's heading into the washroom. Well, I headed in right after him, and so here we are standing at the urinal, and he was a little embarrassed, saying, "Hey, sorry, I didn't mean to throw you under the bus there, but how would you like to come to Rotary?" And I did, and well, that was 31 years ago. Still a member. So
Off of a guy who bashes you on television, you follow him into a bathroom in
I did.
Vermilion, and he goes, "You want to come to Rotary?"
Yeah.
Meaning you need to get more into our
Community?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I think it was more just a reaction that he felt embarrassed that it was that he had done that, and it was just kind of hey, because he was actually a fairly new member as well, and so yeah, that was quite interesting, and so yeah, so that was another game changer for me, Rotary, by any means, especially just being new to town.
Okay, well, I got a couple of questions that come to mind. I want to go back before I go forward. And when you say it was a fork in the road, you're living in Fort McMurray. You can go one way or the other. You make a weekend trip down to Lloydminster. Did you bring your family with you, or was it just, I'm going to buzz down and see what Lloyd's like?
I just buzzed down initially, yeah.
So you never brought your wife down?
Not the first time, but before we made any kind of a commitment, she was...
What were you impressed with the first time down Lloyd? I know you said that the opportunity, was that the main attraction?
Well, that was part of it, but it was a nice. It seemed like a great little town. It seemed a lot more distinct. Shall we say, like the downtown side of things with Lloydminster. Fort McMurray is spread out all over the place, right? So you can be at one end of the city, excuse me, and it's actually 13 kilometers across the city. Because it's you're on riverbanks and down river valleys, so this was much more compact. That's what I really liked about it, and it was it just seemed that there was easy. It was easy to get around with, and with this upgrader coming in, I talked to more people when I was down, and it was the future was looking great for Lloydminster.
What was the business then that you brought to Lloyd?
I started it fresh here, so that was part of the chemical side of things with the SC Johnson, all the janitorial. We were set up for doing dishwashing chemicals for restaurants and laundry and for hotels and hospitals, and we did that. We were working through another company doing that. We were just kind of their service guys, and then an opportunity came with a competitor from down east, and we brought in, we were able to bring in their line of chemical, and I brought down my best friend from Fort McMurray. He's a MacGyver, and he can do it all. So he's a journeyman electrician, and he can do anything. And so I enticed him. I offered him a partnership, and
who's that?
Glenn Kerwin.
Oh yes,
and Glenn, of course, still has Relay Distributing.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Yeah, so he came down, and that was we.
And so that's the company, is Relay Distributing?
That's correct. Yeah, that's what I came down for, to start.
And it initially got its start in linens and chemicals.
Well, not linens, chemicals for linens.
Oh,
like
sorry, for
laundry.
linen. Sorry, that's what I was meaning.
Yeah, and all the dishwashing. I mean, we dealt with the hospital on the dishwashers and laundry. We dealt with 90% of the restaurants in town. We're taking our product, and we did full service on all the dishwashing machines, all the laundry. So it was, for them to have that service here, it was really needed. Because if they ran into a problem at Bill at Greek Classic, his dishwasher cabs somewhere through supper, he's waiting for somebody to come in from Edmonton, and you're 3 or 4 hours. Everything's.
So when you started up that business, was there any competitors doing that?
Just from out of town on the dishwashing and laundry. Yeah,
so you offered an in-house or an in-town, which gave you a leg up on everybody.
Oh, absolutely. And not only that, we did, we had some, books with all our references in it, and especially when we started branching out, going out of town, if you're bringing those references out to the hospital in Wainwright, it's a great door opener when the Lloydminster is using it, the Pioneer Lodge, and it just goes right in there, so it gives you a lot of credibility. So, and there again, we're very short distance away from from Wainwright, and we would go out every, we were doing kind of a circuit every couple weeks. So we were there maintaining the machine and making sure that everything was running smooth. So no, it was very interesting.
You strike me as a guy that when you see an opportunity, you see it for what it is, and most people would talk about it and maybe do something, but you seem like, nope, we're doing it, and let's go get it done. Because you start out as a chef, essentially.
Yep.
Work your way up, realize what I think a lot of, I would say a lot of men find out once they have kids, and you're working a job that, you're working crap ton of hours. Man, it'd be nice to have something where I could actually see my kids. You make the change, but then you jump at an opportunity, which leads to another opportunity, which leads to a business, which, is in the line of what you were doing, but not anywhere remotely where you started.
That's correct. And there was one of the other things as far as moving down, just to toss it in, and that's how I do operate. If it's, do a good, analyze it properly, and weigh out your pros and cons, go through all the cash flow charts, and do your homework and make sure that everything is viable. And that was the case. The other thing is that my mom was in Saskatoon, was in Edmonton. And so, instead of driving 5.5 hours from Fort McMurray to come down for a visit or come to a hockey game, an Oiler game, which we did regularly, and drive back again.
I think people from this town know all about driving to see a hockey game.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
It's just a little on that the 5-hour trip is a little different than the 2.5 hours. So, but.
Yeah, well, if you want a Rough Rider game,
yep,
it's the same thing.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So, no, but it was all calculated as far as.
So I'm curious now, because unless I tuned out there for a little bit, where does the calculation come in? Has that always been something is that something your parents taught you? Is that something that you learned along the way? Is that something you've always enjoyed?
I think, for myself, it was just, being in the food business. I was always on the chef side of things. It's the management side of things. So you're always dealing with numbers and labor and food costs, and so you need to make those work, right? That's kind of
even as a chef.
Oh, for sure. Oh yeah, absolutely. If you're doing creating and doing menus, you've got to cost it out so that you're making some money. You need to come in at a certain target. Yeah, that's all.
I guess I never really thought. I always assumed a chef was given the menu and this is what you got to make. Here's what you got, and go at her. But that isn't the case.
No, when you're, if you're, when you're the executive chef, you're planning the menus, right? You're doing all of that, and of course, we.
Oh, so that'd be some hands-on for you.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And it's inventory every month, and so it's it's lots of numbers, not much time in cooking in the kitchen. It's more on the whole management side of things, right? So, yeah.
That makes a bit more sense then. I was missing the part on this calculating, like you very well, you said it, analyze. You analyze opportunities. And you're a guy that, from all accounts, has, when the opportunities come up to sell, you got no hesitation. And
yep, and I think Glenn as well. You're 31, so he must be doing something right there. And I think that they've got a very good reputation. And certainly working with Glenn, it was we formed a good team and a good base, and it was just a lot of good timing with the products that we were carrying, and the service that we could offer. So, and with Glenn's mechanical and electrical skills, he was pretty darn good.
I'm curious. When you were coming in to sit here, you said before we started, I think it'll take an hour, maybe a little less. Did you analyze that out then?
Well, we're not. It could be a real quick ending here, so.
So you have thought about it then. You're probably just, he's going to probably ask this amount of questions at this.
Yeah, I haven't done that, to be honest. Yeah, no.
Well, in all of our conversations prior to this, I've never, and I don't mean this as a knock, I just never heard you talk about analyzing things so in depth. But I guess that's one of your strong suits. It's probably why you're on the city council. I just now that I'm listening to you and I see your track line, so to speak, like where you've been and how you've got there, it becomes a little bit of a theme with you, as analyzing when to move on and carry on. And now you've been in Lloyd for quite some time, so you've definitely enjoyed your time in this city.
Love it. Yeah, wouldn't leave here. My wife we always laugh about that, but I'm in no hurry to go anywhere. This is
even with it being minus 35 outside.
Even with it being minus 35, I love this city, and what I like best about it. One of the things I like about it, obviously, is the people, but I can go anywhere. And, I go into a room, I know people. Wherever I go, I know somebody. So I'm never at a loss. If I walked into a room and I didn't know anybody, that would be unusual. And it's just, like I said, living here 30 years, yeah, maybe with a youth group I'd be in trouble. But
how about the Rotary? Let's talk about it. You mentioned getting in there in a strange way through a conversation in a bathroom urinal.
Yeah, I've never told that to anybody. So that's correct.
Well, what has it been about the Rotary that, to stay in it for, what did you say, 30 years?
Yeah, 31 years. Yep.
That's longevity. I mean, to be a part of an organization and as active as you've been, obviously there's something there you like, because if you didn't want to be in it, it's not like anyone's holding you to the fire, so to speak. You could have just walked away and, dusted your hands and said, best of luck to you, and I've served my time, but obviously not.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's, when I first joined Rotary, I think there was 75 of us in the club, and it was amazing, the individuals that met there, because at that time Rotary was business owners, managers. There was some restrictions on getting in, so to speak, and that's, you did have to own a business or be a business manager. And so I got to meet, the Ray Nelsons and the Marshall Tyndalls and the Jim Hemstocks and, so many people that were key. Richard Larson, for crying out loud, and he was our landlord as well with Relay Distributing initially. So to have the opportunity to meet these guys that have been made huge impacts on the community, and have lunch with them every Monday. And a variety of people. I met, Pat Gulak was the mayor, and Bill Musgrave was part of our club. There's just a huge amount of individuals that it's just a great way to come into the city and get to know a lot of people quickly. And it's not about the networking. It was all the things that we were doing afterwards. We were doing different projects and doing different things in the community, being with these guys and having a blast.
Oh, there's a wealth of knowledge in that group.
Oh, huge. That's all part of a really good learning lesson, and there's lots of wisdom there, I'll tell you.
What's some of the wisdom you learned out of that group?
Well, I think, just on a lot on the business side of things, and how these guys were, how they were operating business wise, how they, what they would do with the staff. A lot of on the whole customer service guys and treating people like you want to be treated yourself. And so, yeah, just some general, just some good standard stuff. I spoke to, you run into, when you're young in business, of course, you run into some difficulties sometimes, and you haven't really got it figured out when you're going to the bank and the bank's telling you, well, you got to start collecting some of the money you got out, right? And so learning, a little bit as far as, on the collection side and how to do that, getting advice on, from some of these others, how they do theirs. And there's just an overall a really great experience in many different aspects. But it wasn't so much on the business side of things. It was more the camaraderie and the assisting, helping the community and working with different things.
Yeah, well, surrounding yourself with some great people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You mentioned Ray Nelson. There's a guy I would have loved to have sat down with. What can you tell me about that man?
Oh boy, he's pretty interesting character. Very, he was boy, tough to describe. You know, it's he was, you know, obviously, you know, very intelligent. I admired Nelson Lumber, the way they ran their operation. They were years ahead as far as, you know, how they set their organization up and had sales teams, you know, out all over the place selling houses and packages. You know, they took their training very seriously, all their sales training. And, you know, there was a couple of friends that I had met over the years that had been trained by Nelson. And, you know, they were top-notch people. So they had a you know, a very good group. And Ray was, you know, was very kind, very generous. And, you know, he helped out a lot of people, you know, within the city. And it's kind of interesting. We were just talking about him the other day, of course, with the Border City Connects. That was we changed the name. It used to be the Lloydminster Handy Van for 40 years. And so it's a little, we're going through this branding side of things. So it's challenging. But, you know, someone was mentioning, we were talking the other morning at breakfast and about Ray Nelson and how, you know, how generous he used to be. And I said, what do you mean used to be? And, you know, they didn't realize, like, we've been receiving our little nonprofit. We get every December we've received, you know, $10,000 from the Nelson Foundation. And so those are dollars that have been, you know, put away, and Glenda and their group look after that. But, you know, Ray and the family are still giving in the community. So they were, you know, and these were good friends of Ray, so to speak, but they weren't aware of the foundation. And so they do that with you know, with a number of different organizations. So I just think that is, you know, that's just fantastic to have that legacy, and he helped so many people, and then to just continue doing it.
Yeah, and people need to know.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. That's.
Yeah. And I've been contemplating that. I talked with somebody else about it and just said, you know, like, what can we do here? Is this something that, you know, we could do a little, you know, story in the source? And there's a lot of good people. When you take like a lot of good people, there's some amazing people that have lived here. And I take a look that, you know, once you're gone, you're gone. And I just lost a good buddy with Ken Baker. You know, that's a toughie. So how do you get people to remember them, and, you know, to keep them kind of current, and, you know, people know about it. And, you know, we've lost so many good Rotarians over the year. It's just and yeah, they're just kind of forgotten.
It's I always, you know, you get to I always share the I'm turning 35 in May, and at 30 I thought I was pretty dang smart, and here at 35 I look back at 30 and go, oh God, I didn't know anything.
It doesn't change either.
And then at 30, and same thing at 25 and 25 and blah blah blah, all the way back to probably 18. And at 18 I thought I knew the world, right?
Yeah.
And I just stare across the, you know, in the last like 3 weeks alone, yourself, Vernon Marlatt, who, you know, has us all beat in years.
Yeah, we're combined. We're not as old as
that's right. And then, you know, before that was Bill McCaw, or Dave McCaw, and Bill Musgrave, right?
Yeah.
And what I love about these is I'm getting, like, you know, you use the word wisdom, and that's exactly what I'm after, right? Like, as much as I want the stories, I want to know what you know, right? Because you sit around in the Rotary, and you got all these guys who are doing similar things, or business owners, whatever. It's all the wisdom. It doesn't have to be in some course for the teaching. It can just be through the stories of, like, yeah, that happened. You're like, oh, right? And that's what I get to do every Sunday. It's fantastic. And that's helping preserve some of those guys, like Ken Baker was on the list. Jim Hill was on the list. And the only thing that's against us, so to speak, is time.
Yeah, that's
time just keeps marching on. And
yeah. Well, you know, and I know that I'm a fill-in today, and which is okay.
Pretty dang good fill-in, if you ask me.
I was just thinking. I wonder, you know, like, I'm not up at that age yet that they usually get somebody to go. I'm only 62, and so I hope they didn't have a conversation with my doctor. That's all, and I didn't know about it. So,
you know, I'll put this toward you though. I've interviewed my father. My father's turning 65 this year, and I interviewed him 2 years ago. So I actually would have been 62. And what I love about, and I've interviewed my father-in-law, who would have been roughly the same age, and they both kind of like, I don't know why you need to do this, right? And I find even if you were 40, you'd go, I'm not at the age. And it's like, why do you have to be 75 or 95 to sit down and have a friendly conversation and share some of the things you've learned? Sure, in 20 years, if we do it again, you're going to look back at this conversation and go, I knew nothing. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm doing this every Sunday. Believe me, I'm going to look back at myself and go, God, I sound like a jackass. But, I mean, it's fun because here's the thing. You want to say, at 89, I'll come back and sit and do it. But what happens if tomorrow we both step out?
You never know.
And it's gone.
Yep.
And that's what's lovely about this, is we get to have
Could do part 2.
Could easily do part 2. Mark it in for 10 years from now.
Yeah,
right?
I got lots on the go here, so I'm just getting going.
Now, going back to, you said Ray Nelson had it named one thing and you named the other, and now I'm forgetting the new brand.
Oh, well, it was, we were known as the Lloydminster Handyvan Society.
Thank you.
Yep.
And now the Border City Connects.
Border City Connect Society.
Why change the name?
Well, there's a couple things. We had some folks that, a good friend of mine, her husband's a quadriplegic, and, she always said he would never take that unit, the handy van. Right, it's just it has some connotations to it, and that's an argument that's out there, and a lot of these folks are in that world, and so, and I get this, I got you want to see someone do somersaults, that's Ken Baker. When I told him we're changing the names, right, like what? But the key is on this, Sean, is that we've had a really good, interesting board. And we've grown, and we had. I was the president of the Handy Van, and I had a call from Wendy Plandowski. She was the CEO of the Health Foundation, and she said, we've got a problem with getting some of our senior clients and people that have financial challenges. They're not going to Edmonton to their medical appointments because they can't get there. They have no way of going. They take a bus, and it's going to take them 24 hours, and a lot of or longer. And there's costs of hotels, and there's costs of cabs back and forth to the hotels to the hospital, right? So she was wondering if there was anything from the Handy Van's point that we could do. So, I took a look at some of the different things that are out there, did a little bit of research, and then Wendy and I got together, and we came up with a Made in Lloydminster solution. So we started it was the Lloydminster Caravan. And so that was the hospital foundation bought us the first unit. It was a Dodge Caravan, and we got a little bit of initial funding from them as well. I got some volunteers, and we started doing non-emergency medical trips to as far east as Saskatoon and west to the Edmonton area. And so it took, it was a little bit of a slow start, but then people started, we were just kind of growing with it naturally. We don't want to be ran off our feet here, just go slow. And and that was done by a donation only. So they could, we had a suggested price of $100 return. We pick you up at your door, we take you to your medical appointment, we wait for you, and we bring you back, and it costs you $100. And for those that didn't have it, we had some funding that we would compensate and be able to cover their costs. And so, that was pretty amazing opportunity on the volunteer side of things. Well, I had a dozen volunteers that we got, very early. And so before we knew it, that one van was being, had to be in two places at once. And so our drivers they'd use their own vehicle to take them down, and we'd compensate them for the fuel. And then we got one of our volunteers actually did a fundraiser, and in a few days he raised $35,000 and bought us a Chevy Equinox. So we had 2 units, and then we got our third unit, which was a wheelchair accessible little caravan, little Pontiac, Montana, and then through 100 men we got our 4th unit. And days we have all 4 of them going. Different, 2 in Saskatoon, 2 in Edmonton, or 3 in Edmonton, because we try and keep the times. If somebody has an appointment at 9 a.m. and one at 3 p.m., we're not going to haul them all down and hang around all day in Edmonton for the volunteer as well as for the. So that was a pretty neat, adjustment there, and then we put in, we've got this. We have a trishaw, and we launched that here this last fall, where we're taking seniors
around town.
Yeah, taking them seniors out for rides. We got it parked at the Pioneer, and we've been doing the Hemstock as well. And there again, all driven by volunteers. We organize it, we buy it, but then we let the volunteers, run it. And we've had Don Duncan's been looking after that, and Paul Harris, a few key people that look after that, make sure it runs smoothly. We've been offering that, and then of course, that the Health Foundation gave us the para golfer to manage, and so we've just been getting going on that. Of course, Brew has been our guy that's been using it all the time and getting mastering in that, and so he'll be sharing that as we move along and get out of this COVID.
Pretty cool what can happen when you get the right people pulling the right direction, isn't it?
Oh, it's amazing. And we've got one more that hasn't been launched here. And so this is going to be another game changer, and it's called Drive Happiness, and it's an organization that's based out of Edmonton, and I've been watching them for a couple of years here, and I just think our timing is right. I contacted them there, a month ago, and just to see if there was something that we could work on together and see how we could do that, and so they are. They're gonna be providing the whole back end, all the administration for this service. And what this service is that it's going to be for seniors that have financial or have physical disabilities. Could be eyesight, could be hearing, whatever it may be. And we provide them a ride by a volunteer that uses their own vehicle in town, only in town. And the volunteer is compensated for their fuel use. And we take them to their appointment, whatever, if they're going shopping, if they're going to the dentist, whatever it is, and just give them the little extra care of helping them into the unit, picking them up, going to the door and getting them, bringing them into the store or the doctor's appointment, and then, doing the same thing on the return. So that hasn't been done here, and there definitely is a need for it. The city has a great program with the senior tab vouchers, where a senior can get a ride anywhere in town for $5 one way with a taxi, and the city compensates whatever the remainder of that tab is, and so that's worked out very well. But the taxi companies are not in the business of doing that little extra care and making sure that they get in all right, and just going that extra mile and making sure that some of our seniors that have been here for years and years are taken care of. It's plain and simple. So that's one that we're going to be launching, and it sounds like I'm bragging here, but
no, I don't think so.
Well, I just say it like that because it's my good friend George Dillon from Onion Lake would always say, you're just going to think I'm bragging when I tell you how good we're doing, but it's certainly not me, and it's our whole group, it's our board, it's people within the community that we're going to utilize. Like our caravans, we've got 25 drivers that volunteer driving the caravan. And these are long-time drivers. Like we've had guys right from day one. Like they've been there for 5 years, 6 years, and they keep on taking them. It's just amazing to see, the satisfaction they get. They know that they're really making a difference for these people, and it's really touching to see, that. And our clients with the caravan are just, they're tickled, right? I mean,
why seniors for you?
Well, on the seniors for the caravan, they're our highest user. We do all kinds of lots of different families, young people. We do people that are on AISH and different Saskatchewan, Saskatchewan social services. So it's not the caravan is for everybody. It's just that our highest percentage of users are seniors.
Our seniors.
Yeah. Now with the Smile Drive Happiness, that is strictly a senior side of things. That's going to be they'll have a criteria that they have to meet in order to utilize the service. And like I said, the beauty of that is our counterparts in Edmonton are going to look after all of that. So all we need to do is concentrate on is getting our volunteer group together for the drivers, and just to promote it within the city of Lloydminster.
So let's rewind this back to almost the very start of this conversation. Now we've pretty much hit the spot where you say you were the happiest You're passionate about what you're doing. You feel like you're making an impact.
Yeah, well, and we've, absolutely. And, I've got the freedom to work with our board and work with our people to do that. So we're looking for things that we can do to make the community a better place to live. It's just that simple. And we work with the Olive Tree. We drive the people from the Olive Tree for meals. We do Grace United Church.
What is maybe one of what is one of the things that as a community we need to be cognizant of that's going on that maybe is a need, or is there anything that you see as a big need? I'm trying to phrase it in a way that makes sense in my head, but I go like there's the Slim Thorpe, and there's Project Sunrise, and there's the hospital initiatives, and there's all the ones you're doing, and I think there's probably some out there that I don't even know about that are directed right at kids, and you're just always got your ear on the open for the next opportunity to help whoever it is.
Well, in our wheelhouse, we're focusing on the senior side of transportation is our big thing, of course. So everything is pretty much transportation related. So that's kind of our wheelhouse. But we do, you take a look at we're also working with this with this adaptive equipment. And so right now we're also in the midst of working with Mount Joy, with the B. Fisher Center, as well as with the Canadian Sports Association for snow sports for people with disabilities. So this is a program. It's a national program, and it's on for downhill skiing for a number of different individuals. So it can be if you have somebody that's a quadriplegic but is young and healthy, you can get single ski units that for them doing the skiing side of things. Within this group, you're able to compete on a provincial as well as then on a national basis. But you also have it for individuals that may not have the mental capacity, intellectually challenged, and you've got people that are taking them down the hill on something that they're hanging. They're inside, a toboggan type thing and going down the hill at Mount Joy. So it's, that's what we're kind of focusing on. That's our other focuses on because of our handy van, we have some built-in clientele, and, if we can help them get out and experience this, new experiences, that's what it's all about as well, just making their quality of life better.
I feel like this is going to be a really dumb question, but I'm going to ask it anyways.
Shoot.
Why? Why does this mean so much to you? And what I mean is, I hear the business guy talking about it. I hear all the good you're doing, and I see in your life all the businesses you've ran, and the organizations you've been a part of, and now you're saying it is the best time in your life. You're the most passionate about what you're doing. I just feel like I'm missing something, and maybe I'm not. Maybe you've always been passionate about helping others, and I just didn't catch it. But for you personally, why is this so important?
Well, and I have been. My mom was a big volunteer. She worked with Winhouse. She was the longest volunteer in Edmonton at Winhouse for over 24 years, and she was always volunteering. And so that's where I think I started to get that little seed planted. But one thing that got me going here was with Rotary. We started a Rotary employment partnership, and I was out in Fort McMurray at a district conference, and Ray Nelson and one of the heart surgeons from the U of A were speaking. That was after Ray had his surgery. And so it was supposed to be a 15-minute lunch talk, just kind of in between to fill in between your dessert and your main course. Well, an hour and a half later, they're still talking. And when I heard about the employment partnership, I said to my friend whose husband is quadriplegic, I says, why haven't we done this? How come they've done it in Edmonton, why aren't we doing this? And she says, well, it's going to take somebody to do it. So I said, hey, I can do that. And, it was simple. I just went to the club. I got half a dozen guys. We had a meeting. We had Bruce Odinsky from Inclusion Lloydminster or Inclusion Alberta come up and speak to us and just give us the lowdown. And Wendy McDonald, who had thought about it, who had come up with this idea. And so we kicked in the program, and I was the first one that took on an employee. And Ryan was, he's got a number of different ailments, and but he worked for us for 7 years, and he was. It was so interesting working with Ryan. His vocabulary is incredible, right? He's so talented in so many areas, and then others not so much. And but I learned lots from him, and he really got me thinking and realizing some of the difficulties that people with disabilities go through, and how tough it can be. So that's kind of where I got the seed for that. And of course, with becoming onto the handyman board, and then doing a little bit of driving and helping out, you realize that my favorite saying is that I think that a community is judged by how they treat their most vulnerable. And if we can help out on that, and just make a better lifestyle, but that's as simple as that.
The only reason I push on it, and I really like that last line. The only reason I push on it is I'm always wondering why a person is so passionate about whatever it is, right? Like, I was telling the wife, a little short story here. I was telling the wife I have no interest in coaching hockey. Well, and it's never really, I don't get it. Like, I just don't get it. And then my oldest was in intro to hockey right before COVID hit. Like, literally one skate. That's all it took. I'm on the ice with him, and I can just see the happiness of him being on the ice. And I could never see it until you see it, right? Like, all of a sudden it's like, oh. And I tell her that. She goes, well, what do you think teachers do? And I'm like, what do you mean? And I was talking about, like, seeing him getting better at skating and just from being out on the ice with him and coming from frustration all the way up to, like, where he's at. And she goes, well, she's a grade 1 teacher. She goes, well, what do you think teaching is? And I'm like, honestly, I guess I never really thought about it. I never thought about it further than you're in a classroom with a bunch of screaming kids, and I don't know how you do it. She's like, well, we're teaching them how to read, right? We get to see that progression year after year. That's why I do it. I was like, oh, light bulb. I'm all I'm looking for is, I'm not trying to hold you to the fire of you're doing it for wrong reasons or anything. Just more on, there's a lot of people in our community who would never think to do what you're doing. And furthermore, to say that it's maybe one of the happiest times of your life and that you're very passionate about what you're doing. That's all.
Yeah, I don't have any more of an explanation for you on that, John. Really, yeah, just that's kind of just in my nature.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And I mean,
Yeah.
I think you've given a great explanation. I just wanted to make sure that you understood where I was coming from, because I've asked the question like 4 times, and I'm like, this guy's going to leave here and go, oh, this guy keeps asking me the same question. Now, to flip to one other thing here, as we march on and pass the hour mark, and I can see you getting squirmy. You're going, I thought it was going to be an hour. I have to bring up your wife, because with every great man, there is probably a better woman standing right beside you.
Yeah, absolutely.
How did you meet, and what was it about her?
Well, that would have been, we met, we worked together. Actually got up in Fort McMurray, and there was a food establishment. It was a camp that was actually in town, and this was the owner of the camp was an instructor at NAIT, and I had heard of him, and I'd never met him, but I had heard lots of him when I was at NAIT. And so when I went up to McMurray, we were at that one restaurant that I had gone up for, and was there for about a year and a half. And then they ran into some problems as far as just on the finances side of things, and so they shut it down. And so I had gone and talked with Ted, and he, with my NAIT background, he hired me immediately, and then they had this cute chick that was working in the back there, and so that's how we met, and we were young, 18, and we got together. We had Brandy when I was 20, and so we were young parents. We never got married right off the bat. We never got married to 1984, and so we've got 36 years, I think we've been married and together for, over 40 years. And so, yeah, she's an incredible gal. I just, I'm a pretty lucky guy. She's, has got a great sense of humor. She's a great looking gal that is warm, and, I just can't say enough about her. But the big thing is that we've always got along. And that's the amazing thing, is on that longevity. And, I've people always say, so how do you, 40 years, how do you do that, right? But, and I've narrowed it down to a number of things. And I mean, it's, it's certainly treating each other with respect. And, but probably the key one for us has been, if you got a problem, say it, get it over with, and let's move on. And no festering of, no playing games, none of that stuff. And that has been, our golden ticket, I think, is just getting it, what we need to say, over and done with. And it doesn't happen that often. And we spend a ton of time together. Even before COVID, we did anyways as well. So, but yeah, and, anybody that can put up with me for that amount of time has got to be special. So.
Yeah, don't let anything fester. That's don't go to bed angry at one another.
Yeah,
so
and
similar.
not even anytime. It's like, and that's what we do. It's just over with. Get it? Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm wrong. It's not pointing fingers and who's doing what, right? It's just let's just get this over with, and not get it over with. But, and so, like I say, it's been really key. But we haven't. We've gotten along all the time. There's been nothing really out of the ordinary to cause anything like that. So I think if you live your life that way and stay in the light and not stay out of the dark, it's those are good words.
Here's a fun thing to make you feel a little bit younger.
Okay.
If I were to have, you've been to weddings where they have the married couples stay on the dance floor and they go, whoever's been married 5 years can come off. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. In the archive episodes, you'd probably be the first couple off. How crazy is that?
Yeah.
You'd be one of the first couples off.
Yeah, no.
Like over 50s become the standard. You're too young. In 10 years, maybe you'll last. But I mean, it's super cool. I'm not trying to poke fun at how.
No.
It's any amount of years like that is always impressive, because there's good ups and downs of any relationship.
Sure.
And I think, if you look around, we talk about it an awful lot on these archive episodes when significant others are brought up, is that there's a lot of divorce right now. And there's been a lot of divorce in probably the last 25 years. And it's always interesting to hear what people do and have done successfully to make a marriage last. Because I think anyone who gets married, the first thing they're not thinking is, well, I can't wait to get out of this one, right? Like, I think we all go in there with the hope that it's going to last for the rest of the time. But the rest of the time is a long time, and you've certainly done a good job thus far.
Yeah, no, it's been good. It reminds me of one of my business partners that one of his best friends was getting married again, and he couldn't attend the meeting, so he says, I'll get you on the next one. So, yeah, that's unfortunately, I think a lot of times people get, our wedding was very simple, and we just had immediate family. We were at the Chateau Lacombe in Edmonton for a night. It was nothing crazy. And when you take a look at nowadays, it's, oh my goodness, if you're not dropping $60,000, it's not a wedding. And so I think it was there wasn't a whole pile of expectations, and I think so often people get all hooked up. I was at a wedding not that long ago, and I was chatting with the bride. After everything was done, we're just out in the hallway, and she goes, "Wow, now that this is done, what do we do?" Like, it's like, wow, we've been planning this for years, and so I just found that very interesting.
Well, that's a big day, even if it's small. It's a big day.
Yeah.
It's one of those, I don't know, not pivotal moments in your life, but definitely hyped up moments in your life. Like,
oh, for sure. No, and that's, I think so. Sometimes people are going down that path and just, enjoying the whole thing about the wedding, but the consequences afterwards is that you're actually married and you've got commitments and things. Once you're back from Jamaica, and but that's certainly not true with everybody. I'm just saying that.
No, I get what you're saying. Here, the last one I'm going to leave you with is your surreal moment. So for listeners, I send out a little bit of a questionnaire, and I have you fill it out. And your surreal moment is that you've died. You've died at a time in your life in 2007.
I did.
Care to share?
Yeah, no, that was it was pretty. It was very interesting. I had been traveling with my wife for a couple of days down to Red Deer on a family thing. We stopped trying to work with her mom that was in a facility down there, and so we hadn't been home for 3 or 4 days, and I was having some problems, kind of breathing. I would it was just a little difficult breathing, nothing serious. I'd lose my breath and take a couple of minutes to get it back. And so I was saying, hey, when we're back on Monday, I'm going to check it out with the doc. And so Sunday night, I woke up about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I couldn't get my breath. And so this went on for a few minutes, and then I realized that I can't get my breath. Like I couldn't walk to the kitchen from here. I'm done. So got my wife to call 911, and so ambulance was lickety split. By the time I was probably awake for about another minute or so, and then that was it. I don't recall a thing. And the ambulance guys were there in a very short period of time. Took me to the Lloyd Hospital. They did a little bit of an evaluation. The key was that the ambulance driver. My neighbor was in the emergency room. She's the nurse, and she said to me a few months later, she goes, "Yeah, you were pretty lucky. The ambulance guys usually don't work on somebody that long." And I said, "What? Like, that's crazy." But so he did. So he got some heart going back, and they were thumping, and so they stabilized me, and what had happened was a valve in my heart flipped open. And so the blood was pumping out into my lung cavity and crushing my lungs in. So all the air was disappearing. And so I had little or no air. All my organs started to shut down, and I went into a cardiac arrest. I had a heart attack. And so they were able to drain that blood off, and flew me into Edmonton. And I was put in, I don't recall any of this, of course, and I was put into, they induced me into a coma, and I was in this coma for a couple of days, and they were just, letting things come back and letting things start to flow, and they had no idea, what the outcome was going to be as far as not having oxygen for that amount of time. So, it's, so yeah, I wake up, and I feel something coming like out of my throat, and something feels like coming off my head, and there is my wife, and I'm in a hospital at the U of A hospital in Edmonton. So it was pretty surreal to say the least, and I ended up being there for 5 weeks in the hospital, and they repaired my valve. They didn't have to replace it, so it is my natural valve that was repaired, and so that all went smooth. But it was it was a little bit of a rocky road getting there, and it's certainly interesting when I was going in for the open heart surgery. I'm like, doesn't matter to me. I just I'm lucky to be here. Like, I shouldn't be here, so I'm not worried about this surgery at all. And so they were able to the skill of those folks at the U of A, it's amazing stuff, and they were able to repair the valve, and couple of weeks taking her easy around the house, and back at work, back at Midwest Communications then. So
You would have been in my math right, 49?
yeah, somewhere in that vicinity. Yep.
It's a young guy.
Well, and like the doc said, as far as that valve flipping over, he said you could have had that defect from birth. They didn't. There was no.
This brings me back to when we were talking about, it's better we record it now because who knows what the next day brings, right? Like, geez.
Exactly.
That change, having that happen, anything change?
Absolutely.
Outlook on life or change?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What did you change after that?
Well, I think spiritually I changed because I figured there was something's happened here. I'm around for a reason. There's no question that someone goes down that path, and you're, so I think I rekindled my belief in God and Jesus Christ. I think that, and I'm not a religious guy, but that was certainly, a game changer. And everything, I just appreciated everything, a lot more, and realizing that how fragile life is, and it can change, change in a flash, and that it did, and I just came out on the right end. So, yeah, it's. Just more appreciation, Sean. There's no question about it. You pay attention to those little things, and you just you realize how important family is, and like as they say, in 7 Habits book, like you're not when you're on your deathbed, you're not asking for them to bring your awards, so you can see your awards once again, right? I mean, it's all about the family and being there, and and that was great with my daughter and wife. They were there all the time. It was perfect, doing that little extra care. So, yeah, it was pretty amazing to go through that, and didn't see anything. It wasn't, nobody was calling on the other
like
side.
You know what my brain's doing.
It was, and everybody asked that, of course, right? So, but yeah, it was nothing, and then something coming off my head, and I came out okay, but I don't know how much damage my wife would argue. It's just different numbers than I, but it's all good.
Well, I appreciate you coming in here today. Is there anything else that I've skipped over? I know I just briefly browsed the sheets you brought in, and I'd hate to miss something, because you just never know when we get to do this again. Yeah,
no, it's no, I don't think so. We've covered it all. Like I say, I'm just pleased as pie, to be able to serve our citizens of Lloydminster once again, and I'm open always for coffees. And the interesting thing I found was when I'm shopping at the grocery store, I get through there a lot quicker now that I'm wearing a mask. That works out pretty good, because people go, I don't know if that's him or not. Because a lot of times you get, when certain things are being talked about, you get that quick trip into Staples turns into an hour, right? Or just running in and grabbing an egg croissant at Arby's, and you get pinned down. I call it counselorized. Yeah.
In 20 years, when someone young asks about 2020, what are you going to tell? What's the one thing that's going to stick out? One thing.
Boy, let me see. That's a good question. Yeah, it's. I would say cooperation, collaboration. Everybody's got to try and work together, and to nip this in the bud. And some people are following it very good, and others not so much. But I think if we had a little bit more collaboration and cooperation, we might be able to nip it a little bit quicker.
Final one. If there's other people that I should be sitting down from the community, since you've been on the Rotary and have been involved in all these different facets of Lloydminster, who are some names you'd suggest that we haven't got yet?
Well, there's I can.
Would Fred North be one of those?
Fred North would be, yeah. Fred's very interesting, and I have the privilege on sitting on his foundation, and I've dealt with Fred for many years. So it's he.
The listener doesn't know my joke, but the joke is
I'm going to try.
I've been asking for Fred now for about a year, so I got to keep
longer.
I got to keep twisting every way I know how.
Yeah, I think maybe we might be able to loosen him up a little bit here after this COVID's all over, because he's been laying super low.
Fair. Anyone else though?
Oh yeah, no, I've got. We can talk. I mean, like Dick Volkins. Have you ever, Dick Volkins? He was just nominated for a Chamber Award for the. Oh my goodness, I'm trying to think of the award. Lifetime Achievement Award. That was just in September. And Dick has been in business here for 30 years.
Geez, that's probably an award I should just follow the winners on.
Well, it's interesting.
Lifetime Achievement, that's a high award.
Check it out. Go on there, and I can tell you that there's. I was fortunate and received that a few years ago, And the research I did on that, here's an interesting stat. So at that time, I think I was the 17th to receive that. And there was 15 people that were Rotarians or a spouse of Rotarians. And the other one was the one that when I was president, I selected a gal that was not a Rotarian. I selected a gal it's Lynn Manners, and I wanted to get somebody recognized in the community that's working way behind the scenes and not always in front. And I really liked Lynn, and I know she had done lots of stuff here, so I was happy to be able to select her. But I thought that was so cool with the Rotarians behind, how those were the
strong
individuals.
Strong organization.
Yeah. So just kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, check that out. There's a lot of good guys. There's a little nugget for you on that one.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate you coming in and sitting with me for a little over an hour. I'm glad I could beat what you predicted, and it wasn't that terrible of a conversation.
No, thanks there, Sean. We appreciate it, and just glad to get out there and talk a little bit about our Border City Connects, and certainly about the city. And thanks for what you're doing here for the archives. You've been a game changer. I'm on that board, and with you coming on, it's been you've been the golden child that's been able to nail these all down, and it's fantastic. This is all part of history. I'm a very poor example of it, but there's been lots of good individuals.
We're all just part of it.
Yeah, for sure. It's but no, good for you, and we appreciate it from our perspective.
Well, I'm just having fun every single day, so that's all I can ask for, right?
That's all I can tell you. That's what you're after, that passion.
Thanks, sir.
All right, thank you.
Hey, folks, thanks for joining us today. If you just stumbled on the show, please click subscribe. Then scroll to the bottom and rate and leave a review. I promise it helps. Remember, every Monday and Wednesday, we will have a new guest sitting down to share their story. The Sean Newman Podcast is available for free on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever else you get your podcast fix. Until next time.